Hey yo, Chris here, and thanks for tuning into the Delta. Like I said in the predictions video, we're trying something different today and doing the Voodoo Wheel video separately, mainly to condense the predictions video so it's not so long and we can focus on context of where my predictions come from. But then also we can have a little bit more time invested into the Voodoo Wheel video where we'll go over the teams that are on it. As you can tell, I also smacked in my microphone, made some illustrations along with it. Look at Red Bull. That's what I'm talking about right there. And the best part is, I'm the one that Ferrari. Look at that. Yeah. The best part about that is they can't hit me with a copyright because that is my illustration. Aston Martin. Oh yeah. Talk about I am an artiste. Watch out, Rembrandt. Anyway, that's what we're doing today. First of all, if you like the channel, hit that like button. If you really like the channel, consider subscribing. Helps me out a lot. Love it that we're slowly growing. It's just exactly what I would want from building a YouTube channel like this. It makes me feel really, really good. And the comments are always a bonus as well. And that's what I would actually like for you to do in the comments for this episode is let me know in the comments if you like the Voodoo Wheel as a separate video segment or if you want me to go back to putting it at the end of the predictions video. But that's enough of that. Let's get into who's on the Voodoo Wheel and the eventual spin. We'll start with the number one team, and that's Red Bull. They have 301 points. In my opinion, they're still the best car in the field, but not by like a large margin like they were in the past, like Bahrain, right? If it wasn't really for Max Verstappen, there actually might even be a good chance someone else would be in the lead, particularly Ferrari. I mean, ifs and buts and coconuts, right? But the main reason why they might be in a little bit of danger is Sergio Perez. Despite him signing that 2-year extension, he hasn't performed well at all and is struggling particularly in qualifying, where he was out there in Q3 in Canada, out Q3 in Monaco, and out in Q2 in Imola. If Red Bull wants to be the dominant team, like that the statistics show they should be, it's really then on Sergio Perez's shoulders to perform like he is in the best car in the field. And he's just not doing it right now. So Sergio Perez has to step it up if they want to continue to be the best team. For the number two team on the Voodoo Wheel, you have Ferrari with 252 points in the Constructors standings. And for the first part of the season, they were hands down the second best car in the field. McLaren has had some things to say about that and has tightened the gap to the point where I think McLaren and Ferrari are just about neck and neck. The Voodoo Wheel casts its spell on Ferrari pretty hard there in Canada with the double DNF. But I do expect a bounce back here in Spain, assuming the Voodoo Wheel allows it. Please don't land on Ferrari, right? The gap from Red Bull isn't by much, and if Sergio Perez continues to struggle, the path for the championship for Ferrari is not out of reach. But it will require Ferrari not to have, like, big old goose eggs like they did there in Canada. And as I stated before, there's McLaren, who I think is right there up with Ferrari, and they're at 212 points in the Constructors' Championship. If there is someone that can and has planned to get in Ferrari's way, it is definitely McLaren. Since their first stint of upgrades this year, they have looked the most consistent out of all the teams. The car seems to be very reliable, and the driving pair between Piastri and Lando is like yin and yang. They do very, very well together. At least at this stage. I know there's always that competitive spirit that the number two driver always has, but for the 2024 season, these two are just melded and meshed well. They're getting points in every which way they possibly can. Lando's performing, I think, the best I've ever seen. Again, I'm pretty new. Maybe you guys can give some insight and say, no, actually, he did amazing his rookie season or something like that. But from what I've seen of Lando Norris, it's the best I've ever seen of him. And since his win in Miami, he looks even hungrier for another win. He certainly has been within arm's reach there pretty much in every race. Like, Monaco's just not fair. I think he had really good pace there in Monaco. You just can't pass in Monaco, so he didn't win. Then there was Imola, where if there was like 3 more laps, he probably would have passed Verstappen, right? Like, he is always right there, close and vying for the win. So with Ferrari looking a little uncertain there after Canada, and the 40-point gap to second place looks like it's for McLaren's taking, as well as the hunt for first place isn't out of the question either. Now, the fourth team on the voodoo wheel is Mercedes with 124 points. Mercedes is the team where the drop-off for the Constructors' Championship starts to fall off. Lots of racing to go, but being 88 points there off of McLaren, who doesn't seem to be slowing down, it seems like a Herculean effort for Mercedes to, like, catch up and be, like, a Constructors' Champion, like, contender, let alone, like, trying to catch Red Bull then, if that's the case. However, Toto Wolff told George Russell to focus, George, focus, and seems to be optimistic that their car can finally be, like, competitive at this stage in the season. While Hamilton is like this lame duck on the team this year, he still is a competitor and a 7-time world champion. Like, he obviously will produce with a competitive car if the opportunity arises. It just might mean he'll have to play second fiddle. Upgrades will most likely go to George Russell first, and if the upgrades were to get split, for instance, and George is making the most out of the situation he is in, out-qualifying Hamilton in all races but Japan. It will definitely be interesting to follow the saga that is Mercedes, because all the pieces are there for them to make a late run in the season. Number 5 is Aston Martin. They have 58 points. I'd say they are the most disappointing team on this list. I feel like they are in fifth place, not because they deserve to be in 5th place, but because the rest of the field is just not competitive enough to challenge them. RB is only 30 points behind them, though, and Aston Martin should start to get worried if they don't start producing. They upgraded their car a few races ago, and they actually seem to regress instead of progress. Alonso is putting up stinkers, and Lance Stroll is, well, I mean, he's Lance Stroll. So, like, it's just tough when your car is not performing, Alonso can't handle it, and Stroll can still bin it into a wall any given race. I will admit, Stroll hasn't been dreadful this year. I really like to hammer on Stroll, but credit where credit is due. He hasn't been horrible, but he certainly hasn't been great either. He still makes these mistakes that you expect, like, a rookie to make, like a Logan Sargent to make, for instance, and he's just too far into his career that where he should be making those kinds of mistakes. So Aston Martin is sort of like at this impasse. They either go in one direction and get better, or they go in the opposite direction and flirt with this idea of they're actually going to lose that 5th place spot. I mean, probably to RB, who's in 6th. Unfortunately, I don't see them making any strides now to catch Mercedes, as Mercedes has seemed to find their footing in their own hunt for advancement. So I right now see Aston Martin solidly holding 5th place unless they put up another stinker here in Spain and RB has the performance of a lifetime. And that does leave to the 6th team there. It's RB. They have 28 points. RB is the surprising team this year, at least in the realm of constructor standings. In my personal opinion, I would have thought, like, this place, like, 6th spot would have been held by, like, Alpine. And the way Haas even started at the beginning of the season, I thought maybe Haas would be a good 6th place contender. But Yuki Tsunoda has really come out as the driver of the year, in my opinion. He's just been performing what the team has asked him to do, and then some. He's only late outside of Canada, where he spun out at the end of the race. There, he's just put in consistent performances, and that's what I look for in a good driver, and thus also a good team. I look for consistency. You don't have to win every race, but as long as you are consistently doing well and getting your team points, then you're helping out. I don't think that he's going to be the next Max Verstappen or anything like that, but he's definitely earned his spot there in Formula 1. which is just interesting, though, because I am curious of how he's going to perform as the season goes on, now that we know that Sergio Perez re-signed with Red Bull. So that seat's not up for him to take. He obviously then re-signed with RB, and he's going to put in his best, but without that, like, carrot wagging in front of him there, I am curious if, like, he's not going to do as well. Now, with Yuki performing well, unfortunately, I feel like Danny Ricciardo is RB's Achilles heel. Whether it's the poor performance, bad luck, or the car just not working the way Danny needs it to work, he's just not putting up the points RB was hoping to receive from him. RB's saving grace seems to be that they are like the cutoff point in the constructor standings. RB caps off the 6th place spot, and it seems like there's like the top 6 teams and then the remaining 4, where the latter just doesn't seem to be much of a contender of advancing into the Voodoo Wheel standards. So those are the teams on the Voodoo Wheel for the Spanish Grand Prix. As you can see here, also we have Mechanical Mayhem. I can't tell if you can tell about that amazing illustration of a car losing a tire. That's basically what Mechanical Mayhem means. It means that one of the cars in the top 6 constructor standings will have a mechanical issue. Then you have Winner's Woes, where that was Max Verstappen. And if it lands on Winner's Woes, Max Verstappen will have a sad face and not have a good race in Spain. Then you have In the Pits, where you can see a stinky armpit flowing onto a car. Basically, that just means that one of the teams in the top 6 will have a bad pit stop. And then you have Podium Plunge. There you go. There's the podium and then the stock market plunge symbol, where one of the drivers on the podium last race will have a bad race. That is the Voodoo Wheel in a nutshell. Those are the teams in a nutshell. Let's see if the Voodoo Wheel smacks Ferrari in the mouth again. Ready, and go. That might be loud. It's a good spin. Where are we landing? Oh boy, it's slowing down. Oh no, it landed on McLaren! Oh, I was just thinking the other day, like, man, it's hit Max Verstappen. Man, it's hit Ferrari. McLaren has escaped the Voodoo Wheel all season long, but not in Spain. The Voodoo Wheel has only lost once this season. So the odds are not looking good for McLaren. Will the Voodoo Wheel strike McLaren down? Will that give Ferrari the chance to build the gap? Tune in to the Spanish Grand Prix to find out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care, stay safe, and have fun out there. Bye, everyone.